So, the Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, was set to announce the provincial executive for Gauteng, which was supposed to take place a few days ago, and was followed by a bunch of postponements and an argument between the ANC and the DA. Now let's get to the bottom of it. So, as we all know, the DA has an understanding with Ramaphosa, which is now affecting the future of the Gauteng Province. The National Executive Committee has given anyone who is involved in the GNU the right to negotiate in whatever manner they want. But now, the DA seems to be wanting exclusive rights in these negotiations. Well, that's where the Premier of Gauteng came in and made it clear to the DA that there's no way they are going to hear from them alone or make their decisions a priority. This follows after the ANC leadership instructed Panyaza to postpone the announcement of the provincial executive. Check this out.
It's not what we give to the DA, it's what we give to all the political parties. And that's why we were responding to a specific question that the DA is raising. And we are saying it's not true. And at the same time, we are saying this is not a coalition with the DA. That's why we must not reduce it to what the DA gets. But how are we accommodating all the parties? The ANC in these negotiations, believe it or not, is the one that has been saying, let's bring everybody. In fact, even the smallest party represented in the legislature. And DA does not care. Basically, DA's attitude is that, no, we are big parties. If we have a deal, we are sorted. We are saying, no, we don't want that. That's what DA wants from us.
In fact, it cares about the party that they want us to appoint.
Exactly.
So how do you work like that?
Exactly. So they want us to appoint a certain party and all. So we have been principled. And that's why we have not even come out in public and all that. Because we are saying, no, we want to work even with a one-seat person party. DA saying, no, man, leave these people. They're big guys. So we are not going to do that.
Apparently, the ANC in Gauteng clarified that the DA would not be taking part in the GNU because they never reached an agreement. All this because the ANC proposed 3 MEC positions for the DA whilst they were hoping for more. That's when the DA made a decision to boycott the new government of provincial unity due to disagreements which led to Panyaza postponing his announcements. Check this out.
Alpha. I did not say the Premier was going to announce the ANC only. Please don't say that, ne? Please. Please don't say it. Because
being creative.
I know you guys, you can say it. What I'm saying, the Premier was not going to announce the DA in his cabinet. The Premier was going to announce a provincial of government unity led by the ANC, constituted by the ANC and other parties represented in the legislature. Because the ANC in Gauteng has sealed and concluded a deal with other parties in the legislature. I think that should be clear. However, the DA decided through their provincial leader Msimang to go in public and make allegations that ANC is unreasonable and that they were not going to come, they were going to boycott. They were not boycotting anything, they were not invited. They were not going to be here anyway. So that's what we wanted to make clear, that in Gauteng, the ANC does not want a coalition with the DA. It will not have a coalition with the DA. But in Gauteng, the ANC will work with all the parties, including the DA. That should be made clear, because the DA is behaving as if we have a coalition. It's us and them. The ANC National Executive Committee adopted a framework. Yeah. We are guided by that framework, nothing else. So, and our position is clear, as the provincial secretary is saying, we are forming a provincial government of unity. As the ANC, we are forming the government, we are leading the government. We are inviting other parties. We've made this clear to the DA that we are inviting them. But they are behaving as if it's us and them. And then if we don't agree, then things fall apart. No, that's why the Premier, the list is got in his pocket now. It doesn't have the DA. It has other parties. Let's take others.
So now the ANC on the National Assembly is definitely getting involved in the Provincial Assembly, and what I seem to think right now is that Helen Zille will dictate her own terms to Cyril Ramaphosa, forcing him to dictate on Panyaza Lesufi. Now this is what should worry the citizens the most, the power that the DA has against Ramaphosa. The video I'm about to show you shows a white old man representing the DA stating that if the DA's decisions are not prioritized in Gauteng, they'll have no choice but to involve Ramaphosa to fight their battles for them. Check this out.
There seems to be a crisis in Gauteng. You believe that it's small issues that are not insurmountable. This essentially can be resolved. Is that your view?
Well, Premier Panyaza Lesufi has forgotten that he's only the Premier because the DA voted for him. Firstly. Secondly, he's in the first stage of grief, which is denial that the voters rejected him and his party because they were unsatisfactory as the rulers of Gauteng over the last few years. And he needs to take those into account. The third thing is, he's got 28 seats and the DA's got 22. And he mustn't now be greedy and try to grab far more than he's entitled to. The DA really wants to make Gauteng work and wants to make Lesufi look good for a change and our own people to look good. But the most important thing is to serve the people of this province.
In your view, if these two parties are unable to find each other, could it place the national government in jeopardy?
No, I don't think it would do that. The national government has set the tone and the example, and I'm quite sure that if Mr. Lesufi is unreasonable, the DA won't agree with him, and if he's unreasonable, President Ramaphosa will take out the whip.
I mean, take out the whip. Something tells me that the racist ways of some whites will never change. They are so self-entitled, and just because the government of Gauteng keeps their toes on the ground, they want to make it a bigger issue. Now another clip that I want to show y'all is of Helen Zille acting like the victim as always and promoting her racist ways and just proving how arrogant she can be after the announcement of the provincial executive was postponed once again. Check this out.
We needed to take each other into confidence, and it wasn't a situation in which the ANC would constitute a government and invite us in on their terms. It was a situation in which we would respect each other's proportion of the electoral result and agree on the composition of an executive. That was the basis on which it was done. The ANC said, right, we want to give you 3 out of 10 cabinet seats. We wanted to know, well, what do you plan to do with the rest? Because unless we know how many you're planning to take for yourself and whether you're planning to give any to other parties, that is crucially important information for us, and it's information that we need. That's obviously essential to building trust and to ensuring that we get clarity on the composition of government. Now, today in the discussions, it was very useful because the ANC conceded that they had intended to allocate 3 cabinet seats to the DA and keep 7 plus the Premier, that is 8, for themselves. Now, clearly, that would be a violation of the proportionality clause. It would not in any way be proportional, not even wildly. It would not reflect the will of the voters, and it would not reflect inclusiveness. So it was completely out of kilter with clause 16 of the statement of intent. And we said, sorry, 8-3 is not acceptable. Today they did agree to go down from 7 plus the Premier to 6 plus the Premier, which would be 7 out of 11, and give 1 seat to the IFP and keep us at 3. Now, we have no problem at all with the IFP coming in. In fact, The IFP was an initial signatory to the statement of intent, and we believe they should be there in good faith. So we have no problem with that at all. But it is still wildly out of proportion to give the ANC 6+1, the DA 3, which is less than half of what the ANC has got, although we're almost the same size electorally, and the IFP 1. So we said that is not helpful. It does not meet clause 16, and it is not appropriate, and we cannot agree to that. So the ANC offered to reduce the 7 to 6, retain the DA at 3, and give the IFP or the PA, they said, 1. We welcome the IFP's possible inclusion, but point out that this is still far short of the requirements of Clause 16 of the National Statement of Intent. We, as the DA, are prepared to enter the government of provincial unity in Gauteng on the basis of a power-sharing partnership to reflect the will of the voters in Gauteng. But we are not prepared to be co-opted by the ANC on their terms alone, acting as if the ANC still has an overall majority in Gauteng, which it does not. We cannot agree to be taken hostage in a government of provincial unity in which only one party dictates the terms. As far as committee chairs in the Gauteng legislature are concerned, the proposal was that the DA would take 6 out of a total of 17, and we were prepared to accept this allocation despite a significant shortfall on the basis of the executive reflecting the letter and the spirit of the Declaration of Intent. Our door remains open to further negotiations when the ANC is genuinely committed to treating us as a party that is almost the same size as they are in Gauteng. We will again come to the table in an atmosphere of mutual respect and negotiate in good faith and seek to build trust between the parties.
This is just ridiculous and embarrassing. The DA just can't stop putting themselves first, and when we start calling them for what they really are, they look at us as the bad guys. I think what Panyaza Lesufi is doing for the Gauteng Province is only for the best of it, and it's about time that we have people who stand for their own words and disagree to bow down to the DA or their grandmother Helen Zille. Y'all let me know what you think of this. My name is Jay, and this is Moment in Future, pulling you into the truth.